Egypt is one of the few countries on Earth whose borders were shaped by nature long before humans ever tried to draw lines on maps. Welcome to World Travel and History. Today, we're exploring Egypt, not just as a country, but as a civilization protected, threatened, and defined by its borders for over 5,000 years. Egypt's story begins with geography. The Nile River carved a narrow green corridor through endless desert, creating one of the most defensible homelands in human history. To the west lay the Sahara, vast and nearly impassable. To the east, rugged mountains and the Red Sea formed a natural barrier. To the south, the Nile's cataract slowed movement. And to the north, the Mediterranean connected Egypt to the world while still offering protection. These natural borders allowed Egypt to grow in isolation. While Mesopotamia was constantly invaded, Egypt remained stable for centuries. Borders were not walls, they were landscapes that shaped a civilization obsessed with order, balance, and continuity. But Egypt was never completely alone. To the south lay Nubia, modern-day Sudan. This was Egypt's oldest and most complex border. Nubia was rich in gold, soldiers, and trade routes. At times, Egypt conquered Nubia. At other times, Nubia conquered Egypt. During the 25th dynasty, Nubian kings ruled as pharaohs, proving this border was not a division but a shared cultural space. As empires rose and fell, this southern border remained a military frontier under Persians, Greeks, and Romans. Rome fortified Egypt as southern edge to protect its grain supply, because controlling Egypt meant feeding an empire. To the east lay Sinai, Egypt's most dangerous border. Unlike the deserts elsewhere, Sinai was a gateway. Ancient invaders entered Egypt through it, the Hyksos, Assyrians, Persians, and later armies of Alexander the Great. Every empire that wanted Egypt had to pass through Sinai. Under Greek and Roman rule, Egypt became a province, not a kingdom. Borders no longer protected independence, they protected imperial interests. When Rome fell, Egypt passed to Byzantines, then to Arab Muslim armies in the 7th century, forever changing Egypt's cultural identity. Under Islamic rule, Egypt's borders became part of a vast caliphate stretching from Spain to Central Asia. Sinai became less a front line and more a bridge between regions. Later, under the Ottoman Empire, Egypt's borders were administrative rather than national, flexible, loosely defined, and shaped by control rather than sovereignty. Everything changed with European imperialism. In the 19th century, modern borders began to form. The British took control of Egypt to secure the Suez Canal, a man-made border that reshaped global trade. Egypt was no longer just a country, it was a choke point of world commerce. Britain also drew Egypt's southern border with Sudan, creating artificial lines that ignored ethnic and historical realities. These colonial borders planted long-term disputes, especially in regions like the Halib Triangle, still contested today. To the west, Egypt's border with Libya was drawn across empty desert by colonial powers who never lived there. For centuries, this border barely mattered. But in the modern era, as Libya collapsed into instability, Egypt's western border became a security concern, not from invasion, but from chaos spilling across invisible lines. Then there is the Mediterranean and Red Sea, Egypt's maritime borders. For ancient Egypt, the Mediterranean was a trade route. For Rome, it was a supply chain. For modern Egypt, it is strategic depth. Control of the Suez Canal turned Egypt into one of the most geopolitically important countries on Earth. When the canal closes, the world feels it. And finally, Sinai returns, this time in modern conflict. After Israel's creation, Sinai became a battlefield. Egypt lost it in 1967 and regained it only through diplomacy in 1979. The Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty redrew borders peacefully, a rare moment in Middle Eastern history. But peace did not mean calm. Sinai remains heavily militarized, watched, and contested internally. Today, Egypt's borders tell a rare story. They are ancient, yet modern, natural, yet political, protective, yet vulnerable. Few countries on Earth can say their borders shaped a civilization, not just a state. Egypt survives where others fell because its borders were never just lines. They were deserts, rivers, seas, and corridors of power. If you enjoyed uncovering how borders shaped one of the world's greatest civilizations, subscribe to World Travel and History, where every country's past explains its present.